It's a Weinberg Wednesday. And joining us right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, Dave Weinberg. We got a lot to get to with the Eagles and more. Dave, how you doing on this Wednesday?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So, obviously, one of the things we will get to is Jason Peters, but this clarification of event moratorium has just come down from the city of Philadelphia. And I want to get your intake on this because one of the designations, and as I read this, I'll quote it for the audience out there. The top of the thing says, the city of Philadelphia's event moratorium announced yesterday does not apply to stadiums or other private property. It covers only events that require city permits and take place on public property, unquote. So it seems like, Dave, they're making some sort of delineation between public events and private entities when it comes to this restriction of people in a building.
Right. I mean, stuff like the Mummers Parade, the Broad Street Run, those are the things that I guess that they're specifying won't be allowed because of the crowd sizes. But I guess the Link and Citizens Bank Park are exempt for now. That contradicts what they said yesterday. So I guess it's all really kind of confusing as to what they really mean. It's going to be interesting to see, how the NFL gets involved. The Eagles and Philly specifically get involved with the city, and if they're going to be able to work out some sort of agreement.
We know that cities like Baltimore and Jacksonville are a couple that have announced their plans to have like a low percentage of people allowed in the stands, right, with social distancing and temperature checks and all that stuff. But is that still a good idea, Dave? I mean, listen, you've been covering the Eagles for a long time. I mean, just the idea of having a stadium 25% capacity, is that even worth it in the long run?
Honestly, I'm not sure, Josh. You wouldn't really think so. I mean, like the Eagles, they offered season ticket holders the opportunity to defer their seats until next year. But if you have less than 25,000 fans, I don't really see what the point is, to be honest with you. There really is no home field advantage if you only got a couple of thousand fans in the stands. I mean, just ask the Marlins and the Rays, for example, in baseball. I mean, their attendance is atrocious. Same thing with Jacksonville and football. They don't draw very well either. So it's I mean, the Eagles, especially, they're a team who really feeds off the fans' energy and their enthusiasm. They have enjoyed one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. So if that's severely reduced, I just don't really see what the point of it is.
Dave, you mentioned also in your extra points column about the Forbes magazine estimate the Eagles would stand to lose $204 million in revenue if fans were banned from attending home games. I'm not sure if there's any reason except for trying to recoup some of that money. It makes sense because no offense to the fans, but listen, we're seeing a lot of sports right now performing and succeeding without people in the building. So to me, it feels like the only reason why you would need or want fans in the building is just to try to recoup some fraction of that revenue.
You're probably right there. I mean, you're talking about, concession and parking, and stadium workers there not as many would be needed. So they'd be losing their, at least their side jobs, and then in some cases their livelihoods. So, but I don't know. I really think that the fans are kind of I know you can exist without them, but I just think that having them, say the PGA Tour, for example, having those people cheering when Tiger makes a big putt to win the Masters or whatever. Any sporting event really. If the more fans you have, I think the better off the overall experience is. There's just an energy level. Boxing, for example, you don't have any fans sitting at ringside. It's just not the same when you see a big knockout. It's basically silence, and I just don't. I think fans really do have a place in every sporting event, and it'd be really sad to see them go away.
Dave Weinberg joining us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. And Dave, you're someone who has covered Jason Peters for his entire career in Philadelphia, and now he's been re-signed to play right guard. What was your initial reaction when that news came down yesterday?
Surprising. Jason's never played guard in his life. He was a tight end growing up in high school and college, and then converted to tackle with the Buffalo Bills. And I just don't. It's going to be really difficult, especially for guys 37, 38 years old. Is used to doing things a certain way. It's not only just playing guard, but also playing on the right side. And I'm really not getting the point of it. I can see if you wanted to sign him as a backup, maybe as like an emergency fill in case Andre Dillard doesn't work out at left tackle, or if Matt Pryor struggles at right guard, then maybe have somebody that swing guy that you can kind of plug in there. But I don't think Jason was signed to do that. I mean, he's at the point of his career where he's either going to be a starter or not. I don't think he got any offers from other teams. So that tells me that maybe his best days are behind him, or maybe his money demands were a little too high. But I'm not really getting the value of it. But I know that him and Jeffrey Lurie are very close, and maybe Jeffrey just wanted to give him like one more opportunity to kind of go out on his own terms, and so he brought him back for one more year.
I know that Peters has said in the past, especially to guys like you in the media, that he's like, hey, I'm willing to play another position if they ask me to. They hadn't asked him to in the past, so I'm curious to see if maybe there's a little bit of precedent of his willingness to move and do other things. Maybe if that played into some of this as well.
Yeah, it could. I mean, I guess he probably had to reevaluate his priorities here and his demands. Like I said, the market really wasn't that great for him in free agency, so I guess he kind of had to readjust some things. And then, if playing inside is the answer that's going to prolong his career, I guess he's going to have to do that. But it's just hard. It's kind of hard to believe that he'd be able to make such a smooth transition. I know he's a veteran and he knows, just Allen's system and all, but, playing left tackle for his entire life in the NFL life anyway, I think it's going to be a really difficult move for him.
One of the biggest things that stands out to me is when Trey Thomas was on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill recently, he mentioned about the fact of, you play so long on one side of the line and switching to the other side. The biggest thing to me, Dave, is the fact that you're asking a guy who literally has played such a long time with one set of footwork and one set of angles, and now you're asking him to basically be ambidextrous and go a totally different direction. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I'm just a little concerned that you're asking a guy to do something that just doesn't come naturally to him.
Right. I mean, it's not just like one side to the other, but like tackle to guard. I mean, what made Jason the great player that he was his athleticism, his combination of power and quickness and agility, and those are the traits that were able to make him one of the top left tackles in league history, really. And in guard, when you're playing guard, you're in a more confined space. Have to work with two players instead of one, with Jason Kelsey and then Lane Johnson. And I just think the transition is going to be really difficult. You even saw it with Andre Dillard last year. Granted, he only had a week to prepare, but he had to go from left tackle to right tackle, and he was complaining all week about how difficult it was. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Jason can do it.
Now, the one thought I did have, and I was thinking about this last night, I wanted to present this idea to you, and you can tell me if it's a good thought or a bad thought. It's all good. There's a part of me that wonders, Jason Peters is a competitor. He's a guy that, we've seen him in Philadelphia. He's got that edge. He's got that, attitude that you want from an offensive lineman. There's a part of me that looks at him, maybe he looks at this as a challenge as to maybe build his resume even more as a future Hall of Famer. What do you think about that theory?
That's a stretch. Yeah, I don't think his resume is going to improve any. I mean, if he's going into the Hall of Fame, he's going to go in based on what he's accomplished to this point. I don't know that 1 year at guard is going to really sway voters one way or the other. I'm not really sure. I guess I know Jason well enough. I mean, I'm not a good friend or anything, but I know him well enough to know that he loves to play the game. And I guess he's just willing to do whatever it takes in order to extend his career. He gave indications all season that he wasn't ready to hang up his cleats yet. That he thinks he might have like 2 or 3 more years left in him. And who are we to doubt him? I mean, he is when he's healthy. I mean, he's as good as it gets. Granted, he hasn't been fully healthy in a few years yet now. But I think it is. You're right about the competitive nature part of it. He is a very intense guy and has a lot of pride. And, if anybody can do it, I think it could be him, I guess.
All right, I'll take that as it wasn't too crazy, but it was crazy enough to get a sigh out of it. How about that?
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Dave, the other thing with Peters I thought was interesting is the $3 million in incentives. It sounds like to me that this might be one of those deals where, maybe it's like if you start X number of games, you'll get the $3 million, or maybe like a per game bonus kind of structure. So it seems like also the Eagles, they got him at a price that is actually economical to say, listen, if you work out, it's a win-win for everybody. But if it doesn't work out, it's kind of like no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only way the Eagles were going to bring him back with an incentive-based deal. They kind of know what he can do, but they also know that they would have been fine without him. He wasn't going to demand, a major contract, which you saw in free agency when no one, really pursued him or met his demands. So yeah, I think this is like the best way for him to do it, to come back, and if he can prove himself, if he can make that transition. If he winds up back at left tackle, say, if Andre doesn't, start well out of the gate, then maybe the contract will be worth it. You're right. It's really no harm, no foul on both parties.
The Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Dave Weinberg with us. Dave, let's flip it over to one of the other things you love and watch a lot. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Golf, the Memorial,
yes.
Tiger, he's back. So what does that even mean, though, aside from the fact that the majority of people who maybe weren't watching golf are probably going to be more paying attention? I mean, what can we really expect from a tournament with Tiger back after he hasn't played since, what was it, February?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's more, I guess, for like you mentioned, the casual fan. I mean, I'm a big enough golf fan that, I'm going to watch regardless. I enjoy watching Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka and, Rory McIlroy and all those guys. So it's not going to make a major impact on fans of my ilk. But the casual fan who only knows Tiger and maybe Phil Mickelson, the fact that the Tiger is going to be in it, I think that's going to really pump up the TV ratings. And he's a huge draw, whether he's struggling or when he's doing well. And he played pretty well last year, obviously. So it's winning the Masters. So it's going to be it's an exciting thing for golf. And golf, to be honest with you, golf really needs Tiger. I mean, he's just one of those once in a generation guys that can draw, like I said, even the casual fans of the sport. So the more tournaments that he plays, the better off the PGA is for it.
Yeah, and I think that the pairing for the first 2 days is Tiger Woods, Brooks Koepka, and I believe it's Justin Thomas. So talk about having two huge names, as the pairing for 2 days. I mean, listen, even a guy like me who's kind of like the casual to intermediate golf guy, I mean, that gets my eyeballs going because it's not just Tiger. You're putting him next to two other big names as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a star pairing right there. I mean, granted, casual fans probably don't know who Justin Thomas is. They probably should know who Brooks Koepka is, considering the way he's played in the last couple of years. But yeah, that's going to be really cool to see how Tiger stacks up with Brooks and Justin, because Justin's off to a tremendous start this year. Brooks had a great year last year. So yeah, that's going to be ones that I'll definitely be looking forward to watching it.
Actually, now I'm reading that the pairing is Woods, McIlroy, and Koepka, so not Thomas.
Oh, okay, well, that's even better. I mean, Tiger and Rory are very close friends. They were, both sponsored by Nike once upon a time. So that's probably kind of a benefit for Tiger to be able to play with somebody that, he knows and he likes and enjoys playing with. So that'll be kind of cool.
So, yeah, you got a little star power going at the Memorial. And speaking of golf, I wanted to ask you, Dave, what has been your opinion of the PGA Tour now? Because, it's July 15th. We got about basically a month now of the golf going on, and it feels like that there have been some good competitions. There's been some good matches, some good storylines. How has it really played out for you as the diehard golf fan watching these events?
Actually, very well. I mean, I've been tuning in every week to watch, and it was kind of a weird feeling at first with no fans there, but galleries are, because golf is one of those stodgy, button up type of sports where you're not allowed to razz anybody or cheer too loudly. So but the fans really haven't been missed because of that. And it's just come down to the guys playing golf. And, they've done a pretty good job with arranging the interviews after the rounds. And the really cool thing is that, as I've heard Pete Thompson mention this in the past, that the fact that they have the microphones out there, that you can actually hear the players' colorful language and their personalities really come through now more than they did in the past. So that's kind of been the most neat thing about it, I think.
That's the biggest thing to me, Dave. That is, I feel like one of the problems with certain sports is that they don't allow these guys to have personality. Like, I know it's not an apples to apples thing, but, for me, when I was younger, why did people love John McEnroe? Because he was colorful, because he was nuts.
Right.
There's something to these guys, especially individual athletes, that you want to let them have the opportunity to show who they are, so more people are drawn to be invested in them each week.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to that level, everybody's a fantastic player, fantastic athlete, what have you. So what really separates some guys from others is their personalities. And the more that you can get, more intimate with them, get to know them a little better, get to know what makes them tick, get to know them a little bit like on and off the course or the field or what have you. That makes it even more attractive. And you're right. I mean, the more that they can allow their personalities to come through, the more entertaining it's going to be both for them and for the fans.
Yeah, I'm not saying the golfers have to yell and call people a jerk left and right, but I just there's nothing wrong with a guy showing that he's human. He's like anybody else. He has a bad shot. He drops some colorful language on TV, and I just think it's funny when the broadcasters say, "We're sorry about that." Like, no, don't be sorry. It humanizes him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Tiger makes out, because I've known from seeing him a couple times where his language can get a little bit colorful, let's just say. So I'm going to see if it's going to be very interesting to see if he can keep it under his hat for an entire round of golf.
Absolutely. Well, we'll all be watching that as well. And of course, this is a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. Check out his extra points column at 973ESPN.com. As all guests, he joined us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Dave, appreciate the time as always. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Now it's time to hit the beach.
Absolutely. Told you I'm living vicariously through you, okay?
All right, we'll do.
Dave Weinberg here on 97.3 ESPN for a Weinberg Wednesday.